The man you've all been waiting to hear from, Rudy Giuliani. So I want to talk to you about this because obviously Director Comey has decided not to, or in fact saying that no reasonable prosecutor would recommend that this case would go forward against Hillary Clinton. Your thoughts?
My thoughts are that it would be unreasonable for a prosecutor not to go forward with it, and almost an abdication of duty. What Elizabeth has just laid out under 18 U.S.C. Section 793 is what we would call a no-brainer back in the U.S. Attorney's Office that Jim Comey belonged to. He was one of my assistants. It does not require intent. It just requires gross negligence. He said during his long statement that she was extremely careless. The first definition of gross negligence that comes up if you take out the legal dictionary is being extremely careless.
Yeah, and that's the problem. People at home want to know, what is this distinction? Is it a distinction without a difference? Because a lot of people hear this. I mean, we're both former prosecutors.
Sure. So,
why wouldn't it go forward?
Well, the minute you say someone is extremely careless, you are saying they're grossly negligent. That is what a judge will charge a jury. The judge will charge a jury, has the government proven that she was extremely careless? What do we mean by gross negligence? We mean extremely careless. Regular negligence is not using the proper degree of care under the circumstances.
Sure.
Gross negligence is being extremely careless in exercising your responsibilities. That's what Jim Comey found. He then just didn't come to the conclusion that it's a violation of the statute. He came to the other conclusion. I think that's why he walked out. There's no way to square the two things.
Isn't that interesting? Because he was potentially going to take questions.
Well,
People were waiting, and he left.
That's the first question that would have been asked. Second question would have been, would she pass an FBI background check for top security clearance?
Right.
The answer is no.
No.
She couldn't possibly. I've read 1,000 FBI background checks, maybe 2,000. This would get thrown right in the ash can. I mean, she wouldn't be, the number 35 person at the State Department. We wouldn't hire her as an assistant U.S. attorney with this record.
Yes, she would fail the background check based on the standards that have been used for years and years.
Based on what he said.
People.
If you took his report and made it an FBI background check, she couldn't get any kind of sensitive job with the government of the United States. And finally, and you know this, we never prove intent with direct evidence. Very rarely does somebody say, I'm going to trade on inside information, or I'm going to pay this bribe. We do it with circumstantial evidence. Well, the circumstantial evidence here was overwhelming. He laid it all out. I thought he was going to come to the conclusion that she was going to be indicted. And here's the biggest piece of circumstantial evidence, the destruction of the 34,000 emails. He would have been entitled under these facts to a charge to the jury that from the destruction of the emails you can infer guilty knowledge.
Like consciousness of guilt.
Consciousness of guilt.
And that's
like
a powerful instruction.
Like, the instruction on fleeing. If someone flees, you get a charge. That is evidence of guilty knowledge. If someone destroys records that are possibly relevant, and these records have to be possibly relevant, they actually found some of these records to be relevant. He would have gotten that charge to the jury. So Jim has kind of turned it around. A reasonable prosecutor would have brought this case, no doubt, and I don't know how he ever is going to be able to charge anybody in the CIA or the FBI that is extremely careless with top secret information if he isn't charging Hillary Clinton. I mean, this is the special exception for the Clintons.
Right, because the bar is so high now in terms of the requisite level of proof is what you're suggesting, because he's saying no reasonable prosecutor would bring this forward. I found that language to be very specific, and yeah, was it absurd?
Language is absurd. Reasonable prosecutors would bring this, and certainly under 18 U.S.C. Section 793, that would be the conservative way to go. The more challenging way to go would be to take all of this evidence of what she was doing, her destruction of emails, and use it as evidence of guilty knowledge. I'm pretty sure that's the way I would do it. And I don't have any doubt I could win this case in front of a jury.
Well, there you go. And now with something else that was interesting to me when we're sitting here watching this and people watching at home, he talked about her attorneys and the counsel that, in fact, removed, deleted some of these emails. They weren't able to get access to them, and then they were not recoverable because they said they purged and cleaned their devices in a way that they are no longer able to get them.
Giving these documents to them, by the way, was a violation of 793.
Just that in and of itself.
That in and of itself was a violation of 793. Look, I worked in the Justice Department for 15 years. For 4 or 5 of those years, I had a high security clearance, and I would approve FISA applications.
Sure.
for national security, I never left the Justice Department with him. I stayed until 4 in the morning, and I locked him in the safe. If I had done something like this, there is no doubt in my mind the next Justice Department or I would have been indicted. I'd have been indicted for it. It is so discouraging to someone who loves the Justice Department to see a decision like this.
You fought your whole life for justice.
I am so disappointed in this, and I brought cases against the Teamsters Union during the 1988 election when it did serious damage to the Republican Party. Gosh almighty, you know, you just put that out of your mind. You put all that stuff out of your mind. She violated 18 U.S.C. Section 793. Now, the interesting thing is the statute of limitations will not have run on this. And if Trump should win and appoint an attorney general who's got the courage to do it, they could bring this indictment.
That's a significant point that nobody's made today. That's why the world's been waiting to hear from you, for sure, on this. And a lot of people upset, obviously, because they said, look at the different standard applying, because David Petraeus, the trouble that he got into. She
should at least resign as a candidate on the grounds that if she can't pass a top security clearance, she can't be president of the United States.
Right. And now the American people will decide. Always a pleasure to have you, Rudy. Thank you so much for coming on The Real Story. And as we were saying, Director Comey